Welcome back to the Fronczak Files, where we shine a light into the shadows of unresolved mysteries, lost identities, and the people who refuse to stop searching for the truth. I'm Tracey Hastings.
And I'm Paul Jack Fronczak. Today, we're taking you deep into the case of Colin Gillis, a young man who vanished in 2012 after leaving a party in upstate New York, sparking one of the most extensive searches in the region's history.
Colin's family has never stopped looking, and today we explore what happened that night, what the investigation uncovered, and what still keeps this case open in the hearts of those who knew him.
So settle in and join us as we walk through the disappearance of Colin Gillis, a story filled with heartbreak, unanswered questions, and a community still searching for closure. Welcome back to another episode of the Fronczak Files. As someone with a missing family member, I and the rest of the team are extremely passionate about cold cases. Today we'll be sharing a cold case file to bring renewed media attention and hopefully generate new leads for investigators.
Today we'll be highlighting the disappearance of Colin Gillis, who's been missing from Tupper Lake, New York since 2012.
Since 2012, Tracey.
That's a long time ago, huh?
That's a long time. That's the year I started my DNA journey with my parents when I got the results back.
Interesting how these cases seem to circle back sometimes, right? To connections on other levels you weren't expecting.
Yeah, key moments in time.
You know, we've decided that we want to highlight some of these cold cases for that very reason, because you have a cold case in your own family, and the second oldest missing persons case in New Jersey. And so you understand what that feels like, right? To have a missing family member.
Yeah, that's not good. And there's so many people out there in the same situation, and all they want to do is find answers, find the truth. So maybe by casting this wider net on all these different cases, maybe we can bring more attention. Maybe it might jog someone's memory. It might bring a tip or a lead that can actually help solve these horrible cases.
That's what we're hoping for, that someone might have heard something, seen something. They just maybe aren't aware that whatever information they might have is important. And we've always said, if you see something, say something, right?
Right.
If you have information, even if you don't think it means anything to you, it could mean everything to the people working the case. And we know that from our own experience, that just the tiniest little bit of information can totally change the course of an investigation.
Yeah, that one little tip that you thought was meaningless could change the course of a whole investigation.
Absolutely. It sort of reminds me of when you got your first initial email from CC Moore, and you just sort of were like, I'll get back to her on that one.
Yeah.
Not realizing that she was going to be pivotal in starting to uncover the mysteries of your identity. So you just never know where it's going to come from.
You never do. And since that happened, I've tried to answer and vet every single lead and tip that comes in, because you never know, that might be the one you need.
That was a lesson learned, right? You never know who's going to be holding the keys to the door you're trying to open. And she was holding some big keys.
The keys to the kingdom.
And so by highlighting these cold cases, we're hoping that we can do the same for potentially some of these families that have missing family members as well.
That's right. And like you said, it's very important. If you think you know something, don't hesitate. Reach out to us or anybody else that's involved with this. We'll have more of that at the end of this.
So today we're going to talk about Colin Gillis. This is a very well-known case in the Tupper Lake, New York area when he disappeared in 2012. And interestingly enough, Colleen, our lead historical researcher, when she was looking into this case, she actually made a phone call to the area, and she spoke to a reporter in the area who had covered this case and was able to corroborate a lot of this information for her. So that was really valuable that we have her on our team, and that she was willing to pick up the phone and to corroborate facts before we came in and presented this case. So everything that we're going to present today has been corroborated by firsthand information.
And that's pretty key. There are so many podcasts that just kind of form their own opinions or just throw things that they think are true out there. And it's nice to know that we're giving you vetted information that you know is true, that hopefully will help solve this case.
Yeah, how many times have we seen podcasts or videos about your story? And as we finish it, we're like, whose story is that?
Yeah, it certainly wasn't mine.
That doesn't sound like your story at all.
I don't know where they got those facts.
All right.
Right.
So we're definitely priding ourselves on delivering information that is correct and substantiated, not making stuff up just to churn out a video. We want to make sure that what we're doing is authentic.
Because we are the Fronczak Files. All right, so should we start with the last description of Colin?
The last time that Colin was seen, this is what his description was. A little bit of history on him. He was born March 4th, 1994, which would currently make him 31 years old today. And he was 18 at the time he disappeared.
He's described as 6 foot, weighing about 170. He was last seen wearing a medium white short sleeve American Eagle V-neck shirt with black stripes, size 34-32 blue boot cut Levi's, size 10 red high-top Nike Air sneakers, and an orange LL Bean backpack. He has blonde hair, blue eyes, and a scar on his left shoulder blade.
We didn't get information about what caused the scar or like the shape of the scar. We didn't get any further details on that, just that the scar exists.
So let's talk about the location where this happened, Tupper Lake, New York. This seems to be kind of a Bermuda Triangle for people going missing.
It's interesting, isn't it, that certain places in the country tend to have a high number of people that go missing there.
It's like an X-file.
Absolutely. And, Tupper Lake, this area is rather small. It's in Franklin County, New York, and the population is about 3,200 people. So when people think about New York, and as a native New Yorker myself, they think of New York City, right? So New York is the city. Well, unbeknownst to a lot of Americans, there's a whole other state attached to the northern part of New York City, and a lot of it is rural. There are larger cities, of course. You have Syracuse, Rochester, Albany, Buffalo, all of those large cities that most people have heard of in upstate. But in between all of those large cities and outside of them are small villages, hamlets, with these small populations. There's still a lot of farm country there in upstate, a lot of orchards and cattle farms and dairy farms. So it seems strange to hear about a small town, 3,200 people. This is not uncommon in upstate New York. Actually, I myself am from a very small city in upstate New York, a very small village. If there's 2,000 people in it, I'd be shocked. There's one stoplight in the town. So this is very common to have these small outlying areas. And his hometown actually borders the Adirondack Park, which is the largest publicly protected area in the U.S. with 6 million acres of wilderness. And so you've got a huge expanse of space where people can disappear to and never be found, potentially.
Yeah. It's funny. I used to live in Manhattan, and whenever people would tell me about where they came from to get to Manhattan, I was like, well, where's that? Because
Yeah,
all I knew about was Manhattan, and that was
sure.
my home. I never went, outside that area.
Right. When they're like, I came from Hoboken, you're like, where?
Mm. Even though I was born in Jersey, I should know where that
So-
is.
huh?
Yeah, exactly.
So, putting it into context, this is not New York City. This is a very rural area next to a very large swath of protected land by the government, which, of course, we know that when the government owns property, that adds complications to restrictions to being able to go on the property, what you can do on the property, and who has access to it.
So this Adirondack Park reminds me of, I used to watch The Sopranos, and there was an episode called The Pine Barrens, one of my favorite episodes. But that was kind of like this wooded area in Jersey where people could be vanished.
Yeah, it's a place where you take care of loose ends, right?
All right, so that's where it happened. Let's talk about Colin's family life. I know he grew up with his parents, John and Patty Gillis, and his brothers Lyndon and Ian. In 2011, he graduated from Tupper Lake High School. During high school, he played basketball and football. He skipped a grade and was extremely intelligent. At the time of his disappearance, he was a pre-med student at the State University of New York, Brockport. Growing up, Colin had been a Boy Scout and was very familiar with the outdoor terrain of Tupper Lake. John Gillis, his father, is a local woodworker. He's also a current councilman in Tupper Lake. Patty Gillis helps run the family woodworking shop. His grandmother, Maggie, began Gillis Realty in the town and also served on the library board. His grandfather, Bob, served on the town board. The Gillis family had strong ties to the small, tight-knit community.
Yeah, they were clearly very active in community life, with his father owning a local business and being a councilman. His mother owning a real estate company. People know realtors, right? Especially in a small town. Probably one of the few realtors in that town selling properties there. So, and having had grandparents who were also actively involved. So this is a family that was known to the community. And also for someone to skip a grade, that's sort of uncommon. And so I'm sure Colin was a well-known student as well for being very bright, skipping a grade, and then being a pre-med student at SUNY Brockport. That's not an easy course of study to undertake.
Plus playing sports. He was athletic and smart.
So you've got the combination of all of that, which in a small town pretty much gives you the all-American boy, right? You've got the people looking at that family saying, wow, look at this family. They seem so normal and so successful and, really involved in their community. And anyone that, we've seen quotes from have said, what a nice family that they were.
Yeah. Wow. So now let's go into the last known whereabouts and the case description.
So Saturday, March 10th, 2012. Colin is home from college spring break, hanging out with his friends, presumably, and probably glad to be back home for a little while. According to reports, he had dinner with his parents at about 8:30, and from there he left to go to a party at a private residence in the neighborhood.
He left the party after an apparent altercation. He was last seen by a passing motorist on Sunday at 1:45 a.m., walking southbound on State Route 3, Lawrence County line towards Piercefield. The motorist, Richie Rosenthal, was a man who previously worked as a local reporter and was driving his elderly mother home from the casino. This stretch of road is not heavily traveled, especially at that time of day. He didn't feel comfortable stopping with his mother in the vehicle, but noticed that Colin was acting strangely. The motorist reportedly came back to town after dropping his mother home, reporting the activity to the police. State police responded about 40 minutes later. Operating within a huge geographical area, law enforcement is generally stretched thin in this location. No one was found when the state trooper responded. After he didn't return home, his parents reported Colin missing at 5:30 p.m.
So let's dig into this, right? Let's dig into his last known whereabouts and what we know and what we don't know. Up until the point that he leaves for the party, right? Everything seems sort of normal. He's having dinner with his family, and he's going to go hang out with friends. Nothing unusual about this. However, the idea that he left the party after an altercation, that's all that we really know.
I'd like to know who, what, why was that altercation all about?
If this was the catalyst to him leaving the party, yeah, who was it? What was it about? How far did it go? What are the details there? And the details are sketchy. There's really not a lot of information available out there. This is from witnesses at the party who stated there was an altercation. Not a lot of details about it, though, which, to me feels like the devil is in the details, right? We need to know who that altercation was with, what it was about.
This is a small town, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sure everyone knew everybody.
Absolutely. At a party like that, a house party, I'm sure everyone knew everyone. So it begs the question, why is there so little information available about the altercation itself?
And he was walking down the street at 1:45 a.m. That's pretty late in the night or early in the morning.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's March, and it's New York. So it's cold.
And why was he walking? Did he drive to the party? Did he have a ride to the party?
Those are all good questions. How did he get to the party? You would imagine if he drove himself, he probably wouldn't have been walking. So that's another key detail. How did he get there to the party? And then how did he end up walking down the road at 1:45 in the morning?
And why wouldn't he call his parents or ask someone for a ride if he couldn't access his car if he had a car there?
Exactly. It's 2012. People did have cell phones then. No knowledge if Colin did or did not have a cell phone. But we certainly know that, the party he was at, there was probably a phone somewhere in the house. He could have used somebody's cell phone to make a phone call to ask someone to come and get him. As far as we know, no, he did not make any such phone call.
And I'm sure a pre-med student that's living away at college would have a cell phone, assuming they have cell service in this small town.
Sure, which at that time, could be a problem. I experienced the same thing when I would go back home. at that time, that there was sort of an intermittent cell service in those smaller towns. At that time, that certainly could have been a problem.
Okay, but then it goes back to your point where I'm sure the house had a phone in it.
Absolutely. There was probably, especially if you don't have good cell service, most people are still going to hold on to a landline. So there would have been that ability to pick up the phone and call someone. So the questions start, right? Why does this smart kid who skipped a grade and is a pre-med major making these choices that don't seem to make a lot of sense?
And usually when there's something like that happens, there are names that were involved.
And as we get a little bit further into the case, we don't necessarily mention names, but there are some suspects that live in the area.
Okay, good, good.
So as we move through the story, we're going to get some information about potential suspects. No names because no one's been formally charged, so we are unable to do that. But we can give a little bit of context.
Okay, good. I'm excited.
And then for this Mr. Rosenthal, who saw him as he was driving his mother home from the casino, obviously this made an impact on him. He remembered it very clearly. He identified Colin, that was the man he saw walking down the street, and he did say that he was acting strangely.
So that line kind of hit me because it's 1:45 in the morning. It's dark out. How would somebody act strangely when they're walking down the street?
Right. We don't have any details about what was strange. Was he staggering? Was he walking backwards? What was it?
Was he juggling?
Right, exactly. I mean, you see someone on a dark road at 1:45 in the morning, it's going to catch your attention, especially because we know this is not a highly traveled road. So it's a rural area, and this is not, a freeway going through this town. So we know that it's not a highly traveled track of road. So, of course, seeing someone walking at that time of the morning in March in upstate New York, it's going to catch your attention. But what else was he doing that caused this gentleman to report that he was acting strangely? We're unable to take a look at the police report to see if there was any further details that he might have provided beyond what was reported in the newspapers. And that's essentially what was reported.
And also, it's a small town, and it's 1:45, or depending on how long it took him to take his mom home. But when he told the police, it took him 40 minutes to respond.
That's our understanding, that after he took his mother home, that he came after he came back to town, dropped his mother off, and then he reported this to the police. So we don't really have a clear timeline as far as, we know approximately what time this man saw Colin walking down the road. But we don't know how long it took him necessarily to get back to dropping his mother off and then getting back to town, dropping her off, and then calling the police. We don't know what the time frame was there. But then we do know that it did take the police about 40 minutes from the time he called to respond to the area where he indicated that he had last seen Colin. And when they got there, there was nobody there. There wasn't a trace of anyone.
And that his parents didn't report him missing until 5:30 that evening.
Which is also odd, right? So he leaves the house 8:30, 9 o'clock the night before, and they don't report him missing until 5:30 the next afternoon. Now, granted, he is 18, so at that point in time, he would have fallen under the rule that, if they're over 18, they can disappear, and we don't, if somebody wants to disappear, they can, and we don't have to pursue this. So they might have been aware of that and waited. We do know, however, as we move through the story, we do know that his family and friends had been searching for him themselves prior to reporting him missing at 5:30 in the afternoon. They had started their own search.
Okay, that's good to hear.
I mean, it's entirely possible, if we're spitballing, that his parents did call the police and say, he's missing. We last saw him last night. This is what we know. And they might have said, you can't file a report. It's not 24 hours. And so something delayed their ability to file an official report.
Yeah.
The thing that sends up the red flags about this case is all the holes in it. There's so much informational holes here that these things seem like they should be obvious. They should be part of the record. And there's so much missing from what we're helping us understand exactly what happened.
Well, like they always say, the first 48. After that window shuts. And you have over half a day here just gone.
Right. And we don't know necessarily, the police obviously weren't doing anything. What we do know is that apparently his driver's license. So Colin's driver's license was located near the Franklin St. Lawrence County line in that general area where he was last seen by the motorist. So they found that there, but that's the only thing that they found was his driver's license. There was no wallet. There was no other paraphernalia of his, no clothes, no keys, nothing like that. Only his license was recovered.
So extensive searches for Colin over land, water, and air have been undertaken, both by family and law enforcement. Almost immediately following his disappearance, his father and other families searched the wilderness for any trace. John Gillis is said to have personally tracked over 500 miles of logging roads and unpaved trails searching for his son.
I mean, that's huge. That's a huge amount of ground to cover.
Now, what time frame are we looking at? Do we know?
I think that encompasses a long time, initially after his disappearance. More than obviously the day he disappeared. He obviously couldn't have covered 500 miles on foot, but I think that's like a cumulative number, starting from the moment that that was determined that he was missing. When his license was found and they knew there was a problem, I think he started the clock running there. And so over probably in a lifetime of searching, he's probably done about 500 miles on foot looking for his child.
On March 13th alone, over 400 volunteers from the local community banded together to search. Groups including the Department of Environmental Conservation, state police, and local fire departments joined in. Helicopters from the U.S. Army out of Fort Drum additionally were utilized in the search. State police divers thoroughly searched Raquette River and Raquette Pond. Over the course of the investigation, over 500 leads from people all over the country have been run down. A reward was offered by Colin's family. Billboards were placed all over the Tupper Lake area. Still, Colin has never been found. That breaks my heart, Tracey.
That's devastating, especially when all of those resources were being utilized and came up with nothing. The only thing of his that's ever been recovered is his driver's license. After all of that searching, that's all that was found.
And if someone went to the trouble to cause him harm, why would they just leave a license behind? Why not just take everything?
Right. If there was some type of altercation that happened on the road at that time, you would think if the license was found, so would a wallet have been found, a watch, something that would have flown off, fallen off, been torn off during an altercation on the road. That you wouldn't just have a random license laying in the street or laying in the grass or with nothing else besides that. That's a strange piece of evidence to leave behind with nothing else to go with it.
I agree.
Usually a reward can bring people out of the woodwork if they think they have any tips or information. And to this day, nothing has come of the reward. And no other identifying pieces of evidence have been found, despite such a huge, huge search for him.
Yeah, that's just crazy. So why don't you talk about the suspects, Tracey?
The suspects get a little sketchy just because no one's been formally charged with this crime. So there's things that we can and cannot reveal because of that. And you know, locally, if anyone has any experience with small towns, everyone knows everyone, right? And everyone has their own speculations, their own thoughts and ideas when something like this happens, who might have been responsible, what might have happened. So these are good people to talk to if you're looking to form a theory, because we don't know. We don't live there. We didn't experience this. So on the local level, there is many people in the surrounding areas who point to a local family, is what we're going to call them, of having some kind of involvement in Colin's disappearance, stemming from the fact that a boy and his cousin were among the last to speak to Colin prior to his disappearance. So this is information that came from people at the party, is our understanding, that there's a boy who we cannot identify by name and his cousin, who we also cannot identify by name, who were at this party. And they were among the last people to speak to him. And it is reported that they offered to give Colin a ride, which he declined. So they're not saying that the altercation happened necessarily between Colin and this boy and his cousin, because that'd be strange, right? They had an altercation and then they offered him a ride. I mean, it's certainly possible that they had an altercation, offered him a ride. He obviously would have declined it because he wouldn't want to go anywhere with these people. And they might have followed him and found him on the road as he was walking wherever he was headed to. Of course, none of that has been able to be corroborated. But Colin apparently declined the offer for a ride. So that's information that tells us, okay, that puts him on the road at 1:45 in the morning. So if they were offering him a ride home, that sort of clears up the idea that he probably didn't drive himself to the party. If he had his own vehicle, he would have taken his own vehicle. And that, as far as these two boys are concerned, one of them, the boy, that's not referred to as the cousin, but the boy, he's passed away, as has the boy's brother has passed away as well. These are two people who could have provided additional information if they were able to be spoken to, if we could have looked them up and maybe made a phone call and gotten some more information out of them. They've both passed. The cousin, however, is still living, is our understanding. And at one point in time was involved in a rollover accident where he was the driver and a passenger was killed in this car accident. So that sort of segues into this family's history with the law. So on the surface, this all seems pretty benign, right? Kids at a party, they had an altercation.
Okay, so let's not gloss over the fact that these boys both died very young.
They did.
Okay, it looks like the younger brother passed on September 11th, 2021 at the age of 27. His older brother passed away on February 23rd, 2025 at the age of 35. That alone, I mean, that makes you question things. How did that happen?
Yeah, those two people, those ages don't jive. So what's going on there? Why did these two brothers pass away so young? And what we know about their family as well is that they've got a long, extensive history, criminal history. All of them, including the father of these two boys, also has a long criminal record. Significant brushes with the law from 1995 right up until the present day. A lot of driving while intoxicated charges, several drug charges, including possession, 2 counts of endangering the welfare of a child in 1999, and 1 count in 2005. Criminal contempt in the first degree and harassment in the second degree in 2003. There's an arson charge thrown in there, and acting in a manner injurious to a child less than 17. So this family is not the Cleavers, right? They don't have a problem breaking the law. And in small town, right, you've got those families that even have law enforcement intimidated. I mean, they'll arrest them and whatever because they have to, but these guys know they're going to get out, right? We'll go in front of the judge and everything will be fine. And, these are repeat offenders who were never, put in prison for a long period of time. They would offend, then they'd be back on the street to offend again. And what we know is that people with criminal history, they tend to be more involved in these other types of crimes, and they escalate as well.
Yeah, and once again, we're just spitballing here. We're not saying that this family had anything to do with Colin's disappearance. But it is a coincidence in this small town that you have this going on.
And this was all reported as well on the local level, and the newspapers and the news. And of course, chit-chat in a small town.
And now let's really compound this because it's not bad enough. Let's throw in a serial killer. People pointed out that Israel Keys, a serial killer who committed a slew of additional crimes that operated in Alaska, New York, Vermont, and Washington state. He had murdered a female victim and buried them along in the Raquette River just outside of Tupper Lake, and then robbed the community bank in Tupper Lake on April 13th, 2009. Investigators believe they have ruled Keys out because he was operating in Alaska in February of 2012. But, I mean, that's like the Bermuda Triangle of, I don't know, bad things.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly begs the question, like, geez, there was a serial killer operating in this area as well, who, all right, he was in Alaska in February of 2012. We also know that he's been in the Tupper Lake area. in as recently as 2009. And how hard is it to get from Alaska to New York? In 2012, not very. you especially if you're going back and forth between these places and committing your crimes for whatever his reason was for doing that. So although the law enforcement believes they've ruled him out because they could put him in Alaska in February of that year, well, this didn't happen until March. So it's, in my mind, it doesn't necessarily rule it out just because he happened to be in Alaska in February. This is as much a possibility, I think, as anything else.
Yeah, there's so many twists and turns in this. Let's get to our favorite part, theories.
Right? We love the theories. We sort of touched on them just a little bit as we've been moving through this.
So it seems like many people simply believe that Colin was disoriented, potentially from alcohol, and wandered off into the woods, succumbing to exposure. However, Colin was extremely familiar with this outdoor area. The exhaustive search never found any sign of him. Hunters each year were asked to be on the lookout for Colin, but no tips were ever produced from this type of search. Others believe foul play is involved. He left the party due to a physical altercation. It's possible that someone wanted to continue the fight and either intentionally or unintentionally killed Colin. I don't know, Trace. What do you think?
I think any one of those is certainly possible. Exposure doesn't take long to set in if it's cold. So if if you've got alcohol on board and you're disoriented, you're going in the wrong direction, you are, not sure where you're at, it's freezing cold, you're not dressed to be walking out in that weather. If you went to a party, jeans, shirt, throw a jacket on, you're not dressed to walk in sub-zero temperatures or even close to zero temperatures at that time. So, and exposure doesn't take very long to set in. So it's certainly possible. This is also a large hunting area. And so and we heard stories, of course, about how hunters go out during hunting season and recover human remains. They find them in the woods while they're hunting, and they've been there for a long time. No hunters have recovered anything. So foul play is, of course, obviously the big one that's screaming here, because there is so many holes in the story that it seems a little coincidental. A lot of stuff that has fallen into place as far as an altercation, and the last people to see him and speak to him were this kids that have a long criminal history. And we don't know what the altercation was about. And we know, what do we know about teenagers? It doesn't have to be anything serious for it to become really serious.
So I guess a lot of people still believe that the man who offered Colin a ride might be responsible in the disappearance. Countless sleuthing message boards pose theories about where Colin might have ended up after such an encounter: in the wilderness, on an abandoned property, even potentially within the foundation of a home that was being constructed. So now the plot even thickens. So many people believe this previous theory and are shocked that 13 years after his disappearance, no headway has been made. Some have accused local law enforcement with charges of corruption. The man who offered Colin a ride that night was dating a woman. Her brother is a local police officer. Although no solid proof has come to light, this does cast suspicion. So let's jump into recent leads. What's the most recent thing that we've heard?
Well, in November of 2020, the state police went to the Old Noble farm property in Edwards, New York, off of County Route 24, which is about 50 miles west of Tupper Lake in St. Lawrence County. And they were bulldozing on this property. And the home was unoccupied at the time. It had apparently been involved in a fire at some point. No one was living there, though, at the time. And the investigators then at the time would only say that they were, quote, following up on a tip on an older case. So this is when Colleen calls, our lead historical researcher calls to speak to someone in the area who was around then, who has any firsthand information about this. And she called the local newspaper to discuss the case. And the woman that she spoke to there is connected to one of the individuals in this story and confirmed that the search was actually for Colin Gillis, that is what they were doing on that property. The police wouldn't confirm it themselves, but we got corroboration that is what they were doing. We do not know, however, what prompted that, what tip prompted the search, but we do know that nothing came of it.
And investigators dug a 20 to 30-foot circle on the property. So once again, it's always comes back to digging.
Yeah, for sure. and digging and not finding what you're looking for.
Let's talk a little bit about what we mentioned earlier about other missing local people.
This is sort of a vortex for missing people in this area. Apparently, there's 9 other people that have gone missing in Adirondack Park and have never been found. That's a lot of people, and especially from a small town, a small area.
It's a huge area, though, right?
As far as people go, it's small, but as far as square mileage, it's huge. Yes,
The perfect storm for something bad to happen.
for sure. And it appears that Colin was a victim of some type of bad thing happening, along with apparently several other people as well who have gone missing and are still unaccounted for. We have Wesley Wamsgan, who went missing near Lake Placid on November 20th, 2010. He was 22 years old at the time. He left his job at the downtown diner that he worked at. He walked toward Adirondack Trail without any proper supplies, food, or equipment, and was last seen by 2 hikers near the Mercy Dam, which is 2 miles down that trail. Only his green jacket was recovered near the Avalanche Pass. Nothing else has ever been found of him.
Now, with that one, chances are he didn't leave his job and decide to go on a hike.
Exactly. That's
right.
Especially November. Again, this is cold weather. This is not the ideal time for anyone to be taking a walk anywhere.
And that's the same age group as Colin.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So it could be another
disappearance. This disappearance happened 2 years prior to Colin's, but same age group.
Could be a serial killer.
Could absolutely
targeting
be.
a certain age group.
Absolutely.
And who else has gone missing there?
We also will highlight another gentleman, George LaForest, who went missing from Indian Lake, New York, which is a community near Tupper Lake, on April 22nd, 2006. Now, he was 45 years old at the time he disappeared, and was last seen on the morning of April 21st at his camp residence on Cedar River Road. So apparently some type of camper living arrangement, people living off the grid. And his truck was located several days later at the end of Benton Road in Indian Lake. And that's the only thing of Mr. LaForest that's ever been recovered, is his vehicle.
Wow. Okay, I know where I'm not going to go on vacation.
True enough. I'm sure it's beautiful. I'm sure that the landscape is gorgeous and the hikes are breathtaking. It's also very dangerous, apparently.
Yeah. Wow. Well, this is definitely eye-opening, and I hope that we're able to help solve this, or at least get some new eyes on it.
Yeah, ideally, that's what we're hoping for, is that we are going to trigger our listeners and our viewers' curiosity, and see if maybe they can start doing some diving as well. The more eyes you have on a case, the better your chances of solving it.
Cast the widest net.
And that's what we do here. And so that's our goal, is to try to help these, highlight these other cases that have gone cold, and these families that are looking for answers, just like you are.
Yeah, and there's nothing more that I want to do in this lifetime than to help people find answers, leave no stone unturned.
And imagine what it would mean to Colin's family if they could finally find out what happened to their son.
Yeah, because we know how it feels to not have answers to things that are tragic in your life. Yeah. If you'd like to learn more about this case, you can view Colin's listings on the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, NCMEC, the Doe Network, the Charlie Project, and Amos.
And if you or anyone you know has any further information on the disappearance of Colin Gillis, please contact the New York State Police, Troop B, at 518-897-2000, or you can email them at nysvicap@troopers.ny.gov. If you'd prefer to remain anonymous, you can also reach out to the Fronczak Files at info@thefronczakfiles.com, and all information will be passed on to law enforcement.
This is heartbreaking.
It helps us to sort of get outside of our box too, right? We have been very hyper-focused on your story for season 1, and we've been also, our passion is helping other people, and so we've definitely done our share of helping others in season 2 as well, find their identity, figure out their stories. This is sort of hard, right? Because this is one that we don't have answers for.
Yeah, but we definitely have the ideas of how to try to find answers. We have that methodical mindset of what to do, what to look for.
And using our profile to shine a light on these cases. we've got the audience that's listening to us about your cold cases, about helping other people. We've got the people already listening. These are the minds that can solve these cases, are the people that are interested in these cases and who listen to shows like ours and have their theories and their ideas. And we want to hear all of them because we don't discount anything.
Absolutely. Leave no stone unturned.
And we never do. So if you know something, we'd like to know it as well. So please feel free to reach out to us, reach out to the local law enforcement. Also, if you have a missing family member that you would like us to highlight for you, please reach out to us at the Fronczak Files, and we would love to reach out to you and get more information and possibly feature your family member on the show.
Yes. That was fantastic. That was, I'm glad we did this.
I mean, I think we both find this a little hard, right? It's hard to talk about a different case that also has gone unsolved.
And it just raises so many questions, like what's really being done? You know, is there enough being done?
And is that the common denominator that we're seeing as we have covered your case and now we're covering other cold cases? Is this the common denominator that we're seeing? Is that once it's a cold case, it's a done deal? And unless people like us are pushing it or family members are pushing it, is anything going to happen? I mean, we heard it ourselves directly from someone involved in this community who told us if the families aren't doing anything about it, nothing is going to happen. That the families are the driving force behind solving these cases once they get to a certain point.
Yeah.
And I'm imagining that, like for Colin's family, they're exhausted. They've been doing this for almost 15 years and searching and mourning and grieving and struggling. And at some point you get exhausted, right? And you need help. And that's what we're here to do.
And it's like I said earlier, it's the not knowing that hurts you the most because you don't know. If you at least can find the truth, you can live with it, you can process it, you know what happened. But if you don't know, you ruminate things in your head, you make up scenarios that you don't even know if they happen or not. And that's what really kills people.
Yeah, it'll just tear you down emotionally.
Yeah.
Running in circles in your head, thinking about all the awful things that could have happened.
Right. If only I did this, or if I would have done that,
yeah.
or
could second guessing themselves.
Yeah.
Why didn't we do this? Why did we let them go to the party? Why did we need to help this family and families like theirs find their resolution, find their peace.
I agree.
That's what we're here to do.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the disappearance of Colin Gillis. Cases like Colin's remind us how quickly a life can change and how important it is that we never let these stories fade.
If you have any information on Colin's case, no matter how small you may think it is, please reach out to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children at 1-800-THE-LOST or to the New York State Police serving Franklin County at 518-897-2000. Even one detail can change everything.
Before we go, we want to give a huge shout out to our newest top-tier Patreon subscriber, Lauren. Lauren, thank you so much for supporting our work, our mission, and these stories. Listeners like you help us continue uncovering the truth in these cold and complicated cases.
Join us next week as we move on to a new chapter, new clues, new leads, and new voices willing to speak up. Until then, stay safe and stay aware.